All right, everyone, thank you for joining. We've got some folks who are joining us live, and we have a number of folks who I know are going to join us after the fact. So happy to record this final virtual parent coffee of the 2021-2022 school year. I don't know about for y'all, but it feels like it's flying by for me. In terms of how we're going to enjoy our time together, we want to start by welcoming a new team member, Jason. And then once we do, we'll jump right in to something that's called possible selves theory. And I'll explain why that's even important or relevant for us, parents and caregivers, as we think about rearing beautiful humans. We'll conclude with some general updates, and then Max and Jason are going to get with For School Online families for some time, and then I'll be with For School in-person families in a breakout room. How does this agenda look? Does this look okay? Okay, I'll take silence as a yes. So first of all, I want to turn it over to Max to introduce Jason to our live and recorded audience.
Absolutely, yeah. I am so pleased and so thrilled and so delighted to be able to turn it over to Jason Foreman. He is officially joining our team at the Forest School Online in the role as assistant head of school and high school guide for the upcoming school year. So Jason, I'd love to pass it over to you just to share a little bit more, introduction, background, and just a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Max. Thanks, Tyler. Hi, everybody. So I'm on day 3 of my my start with Forest School Online. It's very exciting. I'm actually calling in from Florida. I just moved down here with my family from Brooklyn, New York, where I was a teacher and support coach and school administrator in New York City's public schools for almost 20 years now. I came down to Florida, dipped my toes a little bit in the public schools and wasn't satisfied. And I was been very fortunate and lucky to have found Forest School, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you and getting to know your kids and getting started. So thank you.
Awesome, Jason, great to have you. And just so y'all know, we conducted a national search for this position, the assistant head of school role and high school guide, and we had almost 100 applications come in for this role, and so are thrilled. Jason's candidacy stood out from the beginning, and Jason was a very strong candidate among a pool of other strong candidates. And we're just so delighted to have met Jason through this process, and really excited about his leadership at really all of our organizations, the Forest School Online, the learning that happens at the Forest School from the Forest School Online, as well as our Institute for Self-Directed Learning. So Jason, from all of our team to you, welcome, and it's really great to have you. Any questions for Jason before we dive in?
Where in Florida are you, Jason?
I live in Parkland, which is sort of close to Fort Lauderdale.
Great, welcome.
Thanks, Laura.
Any other questions for Jason? Okay. Y'all will have some time carved out at the end to rub shoulders with Max and Jason. So if something comes up, let us know. And I'm excited. Max and Jason this summer are going to be representing the Forest Schools at a national conference in Boston, convening on character education at Boston College, at a beautiful time to be in Boston. I know from having lived there. Max does too. And Jason, did you live in Boston for a while as well? Or no, it's New York.
No, just New York.
Yeah, but really excited about the sharing and the learning that's going to happen, and how our schools will benefit as a result of their presence there. But I would love to join into this conversation around, as parents, as caregivers of our dear children, how can we get unstuck and pursue meaningful goals is going to be sort of the driving question. And not just we, but also how can we help our children to get unstuck and pursue meaningful goals. And I think the reason why this is so relevant for us as a school is, our mission is that, each person who joins our school will find a calling that will change the world. And it's each person. It's not just the learners, it's also the parents, it's also the team members and the staff. So we really lean into and celebrate instances where, learners, staff members, parents, caregivers communicate and articulate their dreams and hopes and goals for the future. And sometimes we just get in our own way. And sometimes our children get in their own way. And sometimes that's for good reasons, and sometimes it's needless and unnecessary. And so how can we get unstuck? Maybe you've heard these phrases before from your children. I don't know what I want to do. I have 4 kids ranging in age from 17 to 9, and I've got a couple that have said this. Another, you might have heard, I have no idea how to do that. I mean, just no idea. Don't even know where to start. I've also heard, I'm bored, or I can't, or I just don't want to. I mean, are these familiar as parents and caregivers? Here's where I think there's some learning from developmental theory. That's the category of research that we're going to be drawing on today. And there's a particular theory in developmental theory called possible selves theory. And we're going to play with this a little bit. And possible selves, if you're wondering what that is, it's what we think about when we think about ourselves in the future. And this includes 3 things. It includes, our hoped for selves, what we hope we would become. It includes our feared selves, which is what we want to avoid becoming, what we are afraid we might become in the future. And lastly, our expected selves. What do we think is actually going to happen? Who do we think we actually will become? And so the invitation for today is I want to invite us as caring adults to go through this process on our own. And so that we can understand what it looks and feels like to kind of play with this theory, possible selves. And then we'll sort of zoom out and say, what if we were to guide our children through a similar process? And so the first prompt is going to be, and by the way, while I'm kind of going over this, Max, I've made you co-host. Do you mind putting folks, except for me, do you mind putting folks in a group of 2 or 3 for breakout rooms? And I'll tell you when to open them up, but can you do that? Thank you. So the first prompt for us as parents is going to be, who do I hope to become in the future? I want to invite you to think about yourself in the future. Who do you hope to become? And specifically, as it relates to your career, who do you want to be as a professional? As it relates to your family, what kind of family do you want to have? Who do you want to be in your family? What kind of role do you want to play? What about your physical health? What about your your finances? Who do you hope to be in the future as it relates to your own finances? What are some goals you have? And then what about spiritually? Who do you hope to be spiritually? What I'm going to do in just a minute is invite you into breakout rooms to share with the group. You can choose to share, your own goals and dreams for yourself. You're sharing for yourself, not for your children. You're sharing for yourself. You can choose to share in all 5 of these categories: career, family, physical health, financial, spiritual. You could pick 1. You could pick 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to do. But that's the prompt. Let me just drop this prompt in the chat so that you all have access to it. And I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock and invite you to share. Any questions about the prompt before we open up the breakout rooms? Okay, so asking you to be vulnerable a little bit and share, but really lean into who you want to be in the future. Max, if you'll open them up, and I'll see you back in 5 minutes.
Hey, I'm sorry I had to leave and come back, so I'm trying to join back into the room again, please.
Oh, all good. Actually, I just closed the breakout rooms, so people are going to be coming back in 30 seconds, and then we're going to go back into them though, Juanita, and so we'll send you in there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just joined. I was having trouble with the password. It's like I finally got in.
Oh, good. Welcome, Darren. We will. Everybody's coming back in about 10 seconds, and then we'll send you into the breakout room yet again. Okay. Thank you all. I know that's an insufficient amount of time to talk about your hopes and dreams, but hopefully you at least got to share a little bit about who you want to become in at least one of these categories: career, family, physical health, financial, or spiritual in the future. Here's what we have learned from research, that especially for young people, but also for us, finding, naming, and addressing the barriers, whether we just perceive them or if they're actually real, can improve a lot. It can improve our own expectations of ourselves, our identity development, how we understand who we are, as well as academic and employment related outcomes, like good grades or completion or great deep learning or gainful employment once we graduate from schools. This is what the research shows us about this. And so what I'm going to invite us to do now, we're going to go back into those same breakout rooms, is I'm going to invite you to ask this question. Okay, so you've named your goals for the future. What are you doing right now to be that way in the future? What are the steps you're currently taking? And be honest, because there may be something that you're not doing that maybe you think you should be, and that's okay. But what are you doing now? Part of this process is actually meant to bring to the surface, what you are doing and can have confidence and comfort in, as well as what you might not be doing. So I want to invite you to think about that for a minute, and then for another 5 minutes in your breakout room, revisit that goal that you have for yourself and share, what are you doing right now to be that way in the future? I'm going to put the prompt in the chat just so you have it. Can everybody see that? Any questions about the prompt? Okay. And Max, if you don't mind putting folks back into the breakout rooms, I'll see you all in 5 minutes. So again, you got to be quick because they're big groups. Enjoy. Okay. So to recap, so far we've talked about who we hope to become, and then we talked about what we feel like we are doing now in order to become that person. And maybe we started thinking about what we might need to be doing now to become that person. Now we're going to talk about feared selves. So in this theory, your feared self is the kind of person you fear being or worry about becoming. It's defined by the personality traits you think you might become in the future, but that you'd rather not become. It's not necessarily that you have these traits, only that you want to avoid having them. And so the invitation for you to reflect and share right now is, who do you hope to avoid becoming? And so I'm going to ask you two questions for this challenge. Not only who do you hope to avoid becoming, but also, are you doing something now to be that way? And if yes, what can you do now to avoid becoming this way? And again, think about these various components of career, family, physical health, financial, or spiritual. This time I'll give the groups 8 minutes to share. Those are the 2 questions. I'm going to drop the prompt in the chat. Can everybody see that in the chat? Any questions about the prompt? Okay, I'm going to put 8 minutes on the clock. And this is the last breakout that we'll have. So again, who do I hope to avoid becoming? And am I doing something to be that way? And if yes, what can I do now to avoid becoming that way? Enjoy. All right, thanks, folks. I know that's not a lot of time, but hopefully it gives us a little practice, just a self-reflection prompt for you, given what you just thought about, what perceived or real barriers do you face in achieving your dreams and goals? And what's your plan to overcome those barriers? Here are some sort of, if you kind of zoom out, some key points about this possible selves theory. And what it's trying to teach us and guide us through. One is our own images of ourselves can impact the journeys in life that we take. Another point is there's a strong connection between what we think about when we think about our future selves and us actually attaining our life goals or avoiding risky behaviors. Another key point of possible selves theory is an advantage of being a young person is that this is a time when our young people can try on possible selves without suffering, crazy sanctions or consequences. And so when our young people, our children try on different things, this should be expected, not a surprise. And it's a part of their healthy development. But such an advantage can be thwarted. And the value of possible selves theory is helping young people identify and overcome that thwarting. And the theory of change is sort of this: if we guide our children to imagine their hoped selves for the future, as well as their feared selves, then we can help them identify and overcome barriers to becoming the people that they want to become. What I'm going to put in the chat right now is actually a handout that is a possible selves questionnaire that you can use. I actually did this with my son a few years ago. I've done it with my daughter, my other 2 boys as well. This is a snapshot of my sons, but basically you can kind of walk them through all these components of life and ask them like, what are your goals, and what do you hope to become? And what are you doing right now to be that way in the future? I'll just point out for the sake of time, this, the aha moment for my son when we did it a couple of years ago was this financial component. His goal was he didn't want to be rich, but not penniless. He basically wanted to have a house, basic needs, and food. And when he was asked, what are you doing now to be that way in the future? He couldn't really think of anything. So, well, I used to do chores for allowance and for savings. And he was honest about that. And it helped him realize, oh, I actually need to be working on that, right now. So that having been said, I'd just love to open it up for a minute here before Max takes over. Any questions about this process? Any thoughts? Do you think this would be useful guiding your children through it?
I think it'd have to be done in bites. They don't really like to sit down and digest big chunks, like asking them to define career, family, physical, financial, spiritual. Like, I think you could maybe casually bring up one of each of those sections.
That's great.
At least with my person.
Great idea. And if you did that, do you think it would be beneficial?
Yes, I do. I think it's a good talking points, like opening up the lines of communication. Yeah. Especially the who do you not want to be? That was the hardest question for me to answer. And I think it would be the most thought-provoking for anyone, I think.
That's great. Other thoughts? Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you, Taylor. I think that last, was it a matrix that you say that you filled with your son? I think that would be very useful for our boys to go through that. But like Laura said, to do it in bite size because it can be overwhelming. or it can be done in such a rushed way that there's no reflection around it. So I think it definitely looks really good. Something
Good.
worthwhile to do.
Glad you feel like it could be helpful. Just for context too, I mean, I love the bite-sized approach. You probably could have a chance to go deeper, with your children if you do. I took my son, when we did this with my son, he was a couple of years ago, so he was probably 13. And we went to Dairy Queen, which in the United States is famous for like, sugary ice cream. And we had an hour, and I just pulled up my laptop and asked questions and he talked. And it was beautiful. And he could, at 13, he could take it, all of it. But I love the bite-sized chunk idea as well. Well, I commend this to you. And we'll follow up in an email with a link to the presentation, as well as this video, as well as the handout and all the links and prompt questions we shared for you, and invite you to consider doing that with your young people. But at this point, I want to turn it over to Max for this part of the agenda. And it's great, as always, to see you all. I'm going to be hopping, but Max and Jason are going to take it from here. So Max?
Yeah. Can everybody hear me? Just want to make sure. Awesome. Awesome. So for this final section of the parent coffee, I'm going to share with you all how we are preparing to land, if you will. This has been such an amazing ride, our inaugural year with the Forest School Online. And we're wrapping it up. So for the next section, I'm going to share with you how we're going to prepare to land the plane in our first year. This is all recorded, so I'll send out the recording later. If you'd like to take notes, you definitely can. But if you feel like, oh, I missed some info, it'll all be recorded and you'll be able to review it later, because it is a jam-packed agenda. There's, a lot that we want to celebrate basically for the end of the year. So we're going to walk through the different pieces, and we're going chronologically. So in terms of the end of the year, first, we have our session exhibition, which you all are familiar. We've been doing exhibitions at the end of every session. Then we have our end of year celebration. Since we're online, we have the shared commencement that we do with TFS, but we're also going to have our own FSO virtual closing ceremony. So I'll give you details about both of those events. Then I'll go into details about badge clearance and the after action review. Some of you who were with us the whole year, you may remember the mid-action review that your learner led in December. Now that we're at the end of the year, they're going to lead an after action review. So I'm going to share more information about how the learners get their badge plans organized, and they end the year knowing exactly what credits and credentials they've earned, and then share that with you all with the after action review. And that's really that's the sign off. Once they've completed their after action review, they sign off for the summer. And so I'll also give a little preview into how we're preparing and thinking about next year with 22-23 orientation. So we're going to dive right in with the first one, exhibition. Oh, and at the end, we'll have time for questions. So there'll be a Q&A at the end. So if you do have questions, I encourage you to write them down. We'll do a Q&A at the end. So this session, the quest has been travel journalism, and every learner has chosen one destination that they're super interested in and that they want to become experts on. They're creating a travel magazine, and they're basically featuring this destination in the magazine. So for our exhibition, you're going to get to see your own learners magazine, and then you'll also get to see a couple of other learners who feature their magazines. It's going to be pretty awesome. It's all happening on the same day, and that way you can attend multiple studios. I encourage you to attend all of them. But yeah, travel journalism is what we'll be doing, and you'll get to see some pretty awesome magazines. So next is our end of year celebrations. The first is our in-person celebration, which is a joined shared celebration with both the Forest School Online and the Forest School. So all families with the Forest School Online are invited to come to Fayetteville, where we will celebrate commencement. The Forest School has graduating seniors. We don't yet, but you are all invited to commencement to celebrate the graduation of the seniors and see what that is like. And at the commencement ceremony, we will also be celebrating the graduation from studios. So if you have a 5th grader who's going to advance on to the middle school studio, or if you have an 8th grader who's advancing on to the high school studio, they will also be formally recognized and celebrated for that studio graduation during the commencement. As you can see, it is 2 days of events and different things that we're going to do, both as an online school as well as celebration in person with the Forest School families. All of this is on the event calendar, but I just wanted to highlight that this is an opportunity to be in person, to share in community, and to celebrate the accomplishments of both schools in Trilla. Then 2 weeks later, on the official last day of the school year, Friday, June 3rd, we will have our virtual closing celebration. If families weren't able to attend in person, you're not going to miss out on the celebration. We will do the same graduation advancement celebration for learners who are moving from one studio to the next. And then we'll also be giving Forest School Online awards. There will be time where we go into studios and everyone receives their superlatives, which are going to be voted on by their peers. So everyone will get whatever superlative, whether it's most likely to be president or, most likely to have a really good joke to make you laugh. Everyone will receive their superlative. And then we'll also be acknowledging some school-wide awards for some specific learners who received a certain number of community service hours, certain number of fitness hours that just really went above and beyond. They'll be recognized as well. So it's going to be an awesome event, totally online. And if you attend in person, you're welcome to, we want everybody at this one. So whether you're joining us in person or not, we want all families to be here to send off the year with our celebration. So that brings us to badge clearance and after action review. I know a big question that a lot of families have is what is my learner's progress, and what badges have they earned? Where are they in their courses? Well, the badge clearance and the after action review is the time where the learners compile all of that information and then share it with you so that everybody is on one accord, the families, the learner, and the guides. So what I pulled up here is the high school studio calendar for session 7. The middle and the elementary studio look very much the same. So I just pulled one, but really they all look similar. As you can see, our first day of session 7 was April 11th, where we started our journalism quest. And right now we're pretty much in the middle of it. We're there on April 27th. They're going to continue their regular program, quest, civilization, and storytelling for the next 3 weeks. Then we'll have our exhibition, and then we'll have a travel day and our in-person commencement. And then you'll see that the last 2 weeks of the school year, from May 23rd all the way until June 3rd, is completely blocked off for badge clearance and after action review. So what that means on the daily level is that we will not hold any synchronous. There won't be any morning launches. There won't be any quests, storytelling. All of that time is opened up so that learners can get caught up if they need to. If they have some badges previously that they still want to earn before the end of the year, now they have that time back to earn those badges. And then to compile their after action review so that they can share it because the after action review, that's really the final send off. That's what they got to do before the summer ends. So this gives them that time back to make sure they have everything in place and everyone's on the same page before we break for the summer. So I wanted to go a little bit more into the details. You do not need to know any of this. The learners are responsible for all of this. And how you'll experience it as a parent is that they're going to be coming to you looking to schedule some stuff. So I want to bring this to your awareness because they're going to come to you looking to put some of these things on the calendar that involve you. So first, they're going to schedule their after action review, and they'll find a time that works for you to attend, that works for their dream team to attend, and for the guide. Those are all the folks that'll be in the after action review. They have the full 2 weeks. If you have someone who's, wants to do it early, they could start that Monday, May 23rd. The very latest they could schedule it would be Thursday, June 2nd. So if they want more time to finish badges, they'll probably want to schedule it later. But if they're already caught up on their badge plan and they're excited to start their summer early, they could schedule it that Monday. And it really is, that's the sign off. So once they've done that, they're cleared for the summer. Then the learner will go through their badge checklist. The badge checklist has it's a checklist. It has the list of all the different challenges that the learner must complete to earn their badge. And it has that listed for quest, for storytelling, for civilization. So they're going to pull up the badge checklist and they're going to go through each challenge and either check off that they did it or keep it blank so that they're aware they still got to get it in. And once they have their badge checklist updated, they're going to have a parent conference with you. So they'll also be reaching out to schedule that parent conference. And in the parent conference, they're going to share with you, here's my badge checklist. Here's my current thinking, how I'm feeling. By the end of the year, I'd like to be done with this, this, and this. And during that parent conference, you'll also discuss their goals. Tyler shared an amazing resource, the possible selves that was put in there. That would be a great resource to use during your parent conference. But they'll have an agenda. They'll share with you their checklist, and you'll have that time to really discuss their progress, how the year's been, and where they go from here. So formulating those goals. Some of you may recall the parent conference. We started these with session 6. So if you had a learner who was following on pace, you've already had a parent conference. Some of the learners, they were a little too behind to get that. So we excused learners from having the parent conferences in session 6, but for session 7, all of the learners will be doing it. So you can expect that. After they have the parent conference with you, they will submit their goals for the next school year. And that's where they're coming up with their plans. What type of apprentice, if they're in middle school or high school, what type of apprenticeships do they want to do? If they're interested in creating their own courses or creating their own badges, what type of learning experiences do they want to customize? We provide certain badges that are just kind of baked into the schedule, but badge plans are totally customizable. So if they want to take something from the baked in menu and switch it out for something else, they can. We encourage that. We want the learners to be developing their callings in the ways that you all have discussed. So they'll fill out that goal setting, which helps us get a vision for how to prepare their schedule and support them next year with things like apprenticeships, individualized courses, and individualized badges. And then they'll have their final one-on-one check-in with the guide, where the guide confirms. That one is really just making sure cross-referencing that everybody's on the same page and we all have the same records in terms of the badges they've earned, the courses they've earned, their progress thus far. So it's that final check-in with the guide where everyone will confirm that we share the same records. And once they've gotten that sign off from the guide, they're ready to present their after action review to you and the dream teams. And that'll happen at the time that they scheduled. And like I said before, that after action review, that's their sign off for the year. At that point, they'll already know what their goals are for the next year. So they can really just pause and enjoy their summer, and we'll pick it back up with their session 1 goals that they've already made. So that is, in not so much of a nutshell, but that is step by step what these final couple weeks of the school year will look like. And then the last thing that does bring us to planning ahead for the next school year. So you all have received some emails from me. This is one of my favorite parts of the role in determining what are going to be our quests and our storytelling for next year. Well, that is largely influenced by our school community and how everybody votes. So we're going to do ranked choice voting, and we have 7 sessions. So you can choose up to 7 quests and up to 7 storytelling. You don't have to choose 7. If you just have 1 or 2 that you want to vote on, that's fine. But you can submit up to 7. So I want to show you what the ballot looks like, just to give you a quick orientation of how to fill it out when it goes live. Okay, did the screen share switch over to the ballot? Awesome. So this is the elementary studio ballot. Middle and high school studio look very much the same. When you access the ballot, it has the link to all of the different options that you are choosing from. So you'll just click on that link. And I really encourage you to sit down with your family and take some time to really discuss which of these are going to be most meaningful, most relevant. It has all of the quests. And then below that, it has all of the storytelling. We had some tremendous responses. So we put them all here. We didn't cut any because we really want your ideas to be elevated. So as you're going through and reading through all the different pitches, the working title, that's just the name of what the quest or storytelling would be. The end product is the beautiful work that they're creating. So for example, right now, they're creating a travel magazine. So if you were voting on this session, the end product would say travel magazine. And then the description just gives the pitch. What is the quest about? What are they going to learn? What are they going to do? So that those are the 3 most important pieces that you'll need for the vote. And after you've had time and you're ready to vote, you'll fill in. Every ballot is tied to a learner. So for example, if you have, let's say you have 2 kids, one in elementary named Brittany and one in middle school named Thomas. So then you would vote once for Brittany and you would type in Brittany, and then you're the parent. The learners also get to vote, but you get to vote as a parent. So you type in Brittany's your learner, you're the parent, and then here is where you type in the titles. The first choice is required. You got to vote for at least one. But if you have ranked your top 7, then you'll put them in order, and you'll just submit the working titles and type them in here. And you can do anywhere from 1 all the way up to 7, or any number of rankings in between. And then storytelling is the same. So give us your first choice that is required. And if you'd like to also give us all the way up to your 7th, you can do so. And then you submit. So just a couple other, and all of this is going to be included in the email. Learners will be voting, so they get to vote separate. They'll use the same form, but they'll just put learner. This is the learner ballot. And then parents get to vote. And parents get 1 vote for each learner that you have. So with my example, if I had Brittany in elementary and Thomas in middle, I would get to vote once for elementary using Brittany, and then once in middle using Thomas. So you get a vote for each learner, each studio that you have. If we receive multiple ballots with the same learner's name, and like multiple parent ballots with the same learner's name, we will only take the most recent. So make sure if you have a spouse or a loved one that the 2 of you are in unison. Otherwise, whichever one of you voted last, that's who we're counting. We only count 1 parent ballot per learner. And you'll get that email today. You have until Tuesday to vote. So that really gives you some time to read through the different quests, the different storytelling, discuss this as a family, and then submit your votes by Tuesday. And I know that I'm over time. For those of you who have to hop off, this will be recorded. I have about another couple of minutes, and then I'll be able to stick around for Q&A. But I also recognize if anybody needs to hop off, we are over. And thank you for joining. So don't feel like you got to stay on if you got to go somewhere else. But the very last announcement, again, this is emails you've seen in terms of preparing for the next school year. We're on step 3. So making sure that if you haven't done so already, submit the tuition deposit by Sunday. That is also the deadline if you're interested in scholarships, the deadline for submitting the scholarship. And in May, you all will receive the welcome packet. So if most of it, since you're returners, the welcome packet is going to be forms that you've already filled out. So we'll just need updates. But for things like if your learner wants to change their dream teams, if they want to switch some people in or switch people off, that will all be included in the welcome packet as well. All right, so I tried to get through it all quickly, but also informatively. So now I want to turn it over, and I have some time. So we pushed back my quest, so I can stick around for a while, and I'll stick around to answer any questions that you all have about ending well in the different topics that we covered.
I have a question, Max. You had mentioned summer work. How is that not accountability, but how does that sort of check in, or how does that work? Is there like a set date? Can you explain a little bit more? Because I believe that we're on the summer program. I believe this is our first year of summer school.
Yeah. So learners can decide if they want to work during the summer on a badge, whether that's making up previous badges, getting an apprenticeship hours. A lot of times learners want to do that over the summer. So we will still have somebody in the studio all throughout the summer. I'll be there in July. Jason will actually be there in June as well. So in terms of communicating, if you need somebody in the studio, there will be somebody checking emails and who can answer questions. But in terms of completing the work, a lot of that will largely be on the learner to make sure that they're doing the progress that they planned out, because we don't have the weekly check-ins like we normally do. So we'll sign off with the after action review, and then when we pick it back up in August, we'll see. One of the first things the guy will ask is, how did the summer go? Did you get the work that you planned out? And then they'll create the badge plan based on the summer progress that was made.
Okay, and then one more thing that you mentioned, you mentioned that one day, like there would be a time where you're cross-referencing and making sure the records match. Are you able to pull back the veil a little bit and kind of disclose how you all do that? Because I'm not sure that I still understand like how you all know where the learner is on I feel like there's a lot of double work going on for you and And I feel like as parents, we're doing some of that work. And I'm wondering if there is a forecast for next year on a way to make that more streamlined for everyone involved, if that makes sense. Like where you can see where the learner's progress is at any time, all in one place, and we could kind of see where it is all in one place.
Yeah, so so this is the actual checklist. This is the one for high school that learners will be filling out before they meet with you for the parent conference. And so, you know, if I'm a learner, here's the challenges that need to be completed in order for me to earn my travel journalism badge. So what I'm doing, I'm going to Google Classroom, and I'm doing it for high school. So here I am in high school, and I'm literally, did I complete Q 7.1 Intro to Journalism? Okay, well, I'll go to my classwork. I'll go to my Quest 7, and then I'll go to my Q 7.1 Intro to Journalism, and I'm showing you the guide side. I can confirm right here who's completed the work and who hasn't, and even you know, pull up their documents. So you know, I'll be able to say with confidence, yes, I did, and here it is. You know, so that's all documented there. Just do that. All of it is on Google Classroom. So that same process of just cross-checking between what the checklist says and then what's turned in on Google Classroom, that's what they'll be doing. And then they'll be confirming that with the guide who has the full record with access to all of the learners and is able to see this view with the turned in and then who it is still assigned to, but hasn't yet turned it in. So we get kind of the behind the scenes view to see what progress everybody has.
I have a question that piggybacks off of that. So with respect to like the one-on-ones, will there be any one-on-ones over the summer, or is that just only during the school year?
The latter, yeah, only during the school year.
Okay. So for that My Calling badge, that's not something that they could complete during the summer. That one would have to wait until school's back in session.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Will there be any coaching for the learners on like prioritizing those like things that they should really focus on during the next few weeks and the other stuff table towards the summer? Like, I think, again, with this being our first year of bringing the plane in, if you will, as parents, we want to advise them as best as possible. But like that example that Tara just brought up, you know, that's a nuance that I wouldn't have caught. So is there not counseling, but like advisement from the guides with the kids on like, maybe you should focus on this because you can easily do that more on the summer or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Where that lives currently is in our weekly check-ins. But I like how you're highlighting the coaching aspect around, I guess, triaging the work, if you will. And so I'll bring that up to my PLC tomorrow, because I think it would make sense for us to provide some times as office hours where learners could, if they wanted additional support, or if we thought maybe they would benefit from it, we could suggest that they attend, to have those office hours that are specifically focused on how do I prioritize? And, you know, if it all feels the same to me, or if I don't even know where to start, can my guide help me out in pointing out? So yeah, we'll talk about that in PLC, and we could definitely get some office hours on there as well.
a good use of the word triage, because I feel like that's where we're living right now.
You are not alone. I just want you to know that your question was the exact question I was going to ask. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, okay. My question is regarding the Khan Academy. Will that be open throughout the summer for learners to go in there and complete what they may not have completed before the school ends?
Yes. Yeah, and Khan, we always highlight Khan because with Khan Academy, there's really no surprises. If you want to create a parent account, you can do that directly on the website. So if you want to see what their progress is over the summer, just go to khanacademy.org, and right there on the landing page, it says parents, and you'll be able to set up a parent account. You can link it to your learner's student account, and you're able to track their progress. It'll tell you, exactly where they are. So you could ask them, or you could just create your own account and check in that way to see their progress. So if that's something they're thinking about doing over the summer, there would be no surprises in terms of what their progress is.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Coming back again to Khan, the mastery points in the Khan Academy platform, my learners have told us that there's a way that they start to work on the mastery points, they build them up to a particular level, but then if they proceed to a follow-up level and they underperform for any reason, the mastery points reduce. So I was just wondering whether I mean, it just didn't sound okay to us, and we're just wondering whether there's an option on how to, because we understand that you when you sit on the one-to-one, you are using the mastery point to help gauge progress, or to help them progress, or to understand how they're progressing. So I was just wondering with Watermelana whether there's an option for Khan Academy, or what other options the school might be looking at, and if that's at all a concern.
Yeah, it's not a concern from my position. The design behind that feature within Khan promotes apprehension. So we know that it's one thing for somebody to regurgitate something that they just learned, but for somebody to have an enduring understanding is what we're really aiming towards. So if there is something that gets rusty throughout the course, Khan Academy is designed so that it positions the learner to go back and review the work, and then they can re-demonstrate their mastery and they'll get those points back. A lot of other courses are the same. Alex, ASU, they all created in that way so that it prioritizes apprehension rather than just a one-time, I was able to do it and now I can forget about it. With that being said, if there are other alternatives that your family is looking at, we are open. Like we said, badge plans are customizable. So if there is another alternative that you'd like instead, you can always present it to us and we'll review it. And yeah, you don't have, Khan isn't required.
Okay.
Like is that a different message than before? Like, have y'all switched camps on that at all? I mean, obviously everything's presentable, but is it really feasible? My child, and it's my understanding, many of students are really hardcore anti-Khan. Like it is the bane of her existence right now. So just, I know the kids are staging a coup and trying to bring something else in, or at least, going through the proper channels and presenting some stuff. Is that even a possibility? Is that a potential good? Because I mean, you'd make a really happy 12-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely.
One question on Khan, in the parent view, all you can really see are the minutes spent and on what, correct? Like there's no way to look at the percentages. Like to look at the percentages, I have to have Helena pull up her account. and look at percentages for each thing. I think the parent view only shows you how many minutes they spent on which particular activities.
Thank you for clarifying that. I don't have a child of my own, so I've never actually done the parent side. I know that Tyler uses it as well, so I'll reach out to him and see if he has any further insights, if it does provide that info.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I really appreciate the discussion on Khan, and if we have the opportunity to look for options, that's really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks. I also had a question just about sort of a follow-up on the language that we had talked about earlier, like foreign language, and if there's any updates on that.
Yes. So to give context to everyone else here, so we have multiple options for world languages as well. Some of them are free, and then some of them you pay for. So one of the free ones is Duolingo, and that is good in the sense that it allows learners to build their skill in the whole language. But we are also looking for a way for learners to practice and to be able to speak the language with others. So something that's a little bit more robust than just online. So I have been working with a consultant, and I just heard back from her that she has found a program that she's been using. She's a Spanish teacher full-time, that she's been using and gives really good recommendations for, where they also practice speaking and get some of that fluency. So I'm waiting on the email from her that gives me the info for that program. And then I'll share it out with others as an additional option for world languages. She's also creating a scope and sequence so that if a family wants to do Duolingo, they'll know this is what counts for 1 credit. This is what would count for 2 credits, so they can decide how deep into language they want to go and how that would transfer for batch plans.
Great, thank you.
Schoolers, Maxwell, for high schoolers, in the absence of something similar to red ink, what is the school thinking about what to do with high schoolers when it comes to writing and literature?
Yeah, so we do, for literature, we do deep books. That's the same where they're writing their reviews, they're writing their pitches, and they're choosing the novels, based on the deep book criteria. For writing, that's focused on through different storytelling. And we have some storytelling that are writing intensive, and then some that focus on other media of communication. So for example, the travel journalism that they're doing now specifically focuses on how to cite using MLA formatting. And that's like one writing skill that we want all of our learners to have, is citation. So as they go through year by year, we focus on different pieces of writing effective essays, and that lives mostly in the storytelling. In quests a little bit too, but mostly in storytelling. And just an FYI, everyone, I will have to hop off in a couple minutes to get to Quest. So if you do have any other burning questions, I could probably take 1 or 2 more.
I got 2. So for the language, is that available for elementary? Because I didn't even know we had the language option. How do we find out what they can choose?
Yeah, so the badge plan. On the badge plan for elementary, if you pull it up for your learner, you'll see what are the core skills and then the badges. For elementary, I don't believe language, I don't believe elementary has electives. So that's where language has lived, is as an elective for middle and for high school. But you know, to me, I was thinking they don't have electives, but language acquisition is really important in elementary. So I think that's something we should discuss further
Right.
and find ways to incorporate within the badge plan.
Right, that was my thought, because if they're gonna do language the earlier, the better, it makes sense. And then the other question
Yeah.
I had was around science. I don't see anything around science. So is that an elective? Because that sounds like something that should be core, but that's nowhere to
Yeah.
be found. Like, what's the
Science is built, yeah, science is built into the quests. Every year we do a spiraling science curriculum where a minimum of 3 of the quests are science, and they're focused on the spiral of biology, chemistry, physics. So they continue to get that every year. So yeah, that's baked into the core of the quests.
What do we do this year? I didn't see any science topics at all.
The medical diagnosis and
when I wake up to actually do class.
there's
So
one
I come
more.
back to school around 8 to
I think it was one of the storytelling. I'd have to look.
Okay, so maybe that was in 2021, because we joined in 2022, so I didn't see that for elementary anyway. So I'll look into it. Thanks.
Max, I had a question. I sent an email. I haven't checked it, not sure if you responded, but since we're here with the with the commencement celebrations and the FSO banquet, what, if any, are the COVID guidelines you all will have in place?
Thank you for that. Whatever has been created for the Forest School, that will be the same COVID that we'll have. So I haven't gotten to that email yet, but I will when I will reach out to Tyler, get the COVID info, and then make sure everybody here receives it.
Okay.
Yeah. And with that, I do have to hop off to get ready for Quest. If you do have questions, though, email me. I'm here, and I want to be able to answer your questions. I'll also be sending out this recording, so you'll be able to review all the stuff that we shared. Thank you for taking time and for just being an awesome part of this first year. I can't wait to land the plane, as it were, and celebrate the tremendous accomplishments of all of your learners. It's going to be awesome. So thanks again for joining, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.